The air in the hall is stable until it isn't. You feel the shift as a physical weight, a sudden atmospheric compression that makes your lungs labor for breath. The scent reaches you next. Winter musk and ozone, sharp and bracing, bypassing your thoughts entirely to trigger something ancient in your nervous system. You don't need to see him to know the commander has entered the room. Your knees weaken before your mind can process the threat. An instinctive trembling starts at the base of your spine and radiates outward, turning your professional composure into a lie your body refuses to tell. You stand on the auction platform, the silk veil damp against your skin, and feel the stone floor vibrate with his footsteps. The air pressure drops further as he approaches, a storm front in human form blotting out the chandelier light. He stops directly in front of you. The winter musk is overwhelming now, a sensory command that fills your lungs and clouds your vision. You feel the heat radiating from his massive frame, the looming shadow that swallows the space around you. Your fingers tighten on the marble platform edge, but the trembling has reached your thighs now, a rhythmic vibration of primal recognition. I'll take her. The voice is not a negotiation. It is a low-frequency vibration, a growl of intent that cuts through the silence and strikes directly at your spine. The shock that ripples through the crowd is distant, unimportant. All that matters is the absolute weight of his hand as it rests, possessive and final, on the platform stone beside your trembling fingers. Resistance is a memory. The claim has already begun. The mating auction is not a choice. It is a territorial law, a cold institutional ritual designed to stabilize the hierarchy of the elite. The Great Hall of the Citadel feels less like a ballroom and more like a high-end processing center. The air is thick with the smell of expensive wax, old stone, and the underlying metallic tang of suppressed pheromones. You stand on the raised marble platform, your professional composure a thin porcelain mask. You are high value, a consultant whose mind has mapped the logistics of 3 sectors. Yet here, your pedigree is reduced to the biological and the aesthetic. The heavy silk veil draped over your head is your last barrier, a translucent wall between your dignity and the hungry eyes of the gathered alphas. To them, you are a strategic asset to be acquired. To yourself, you are a woman holding her breath, waiting for the gavel to fall on her freedom. The room is a sea of low murmurs and the rustle of tailored wool, until the massive oak doors at the rear groan open. The atmosphere doesn't just change, it collapses. The air pressure shifts violently, a heavy atmospheric weight that makes the lungs labor. It is the arrival of a predator who has forgotten how to be prey. You don't need to see him to know it is the commander. His presence precedes him like a storm front, carrying the sharp, bracing scent of winter musk and ozone. It is a sensory assault that bypasses logic, triggering a primal recognition in every soul present. The alphas in the front rows, men who command fleets and fortunes, instinctively adjust their posture, a subtle, collective submission to a higher frequency of dominance. He walks with a rhythmic, heavy intent that vibrates through the floorboards and up into the soles of your feet. He does not stop to inspect the others. He does not consult a tablet or whisper to an aide. He moves with the absolute certainty of a landslide. When the footsteps stop directly in front of your station, the silence in the hall becomes absolute. You can feel the heat radiating from his massive frame, a looming shadow that swallows the light from the chandeliers. Your body betrays your professional logic before he even speaks. An instinctive trembling starts in the small of your back and cascades down to your thighs. Your knees weaken, the structural integrity of your pride dissolving under the sheer tectonic force of his proximity. I'll take her. The voice is a low-frequency vibration, more a growl of intent than a spoken sentence. It cuts through the silence like a blade through silk, final and unshakable. The shock that ripples through the crowd is audible, a collective intake of breath. The territory's most feared commander, a man who has rejected every highborn match for a decade, has made his selection in less than 5 seconds. He hasn't seen your face. He hasn't reviewed your files. He has simply sensed the vacancy in your spirit and decided to fill it with his authority. As the auctioneer fumbles with the recording device, the commander steps closer, invading the small pocket of air left to you. The winter musk is overwhelming now, filling your senses until the room fades into a gray blur. You are no longer a high-status professional in a hall of peers. You are a creature being marked by a master. The terms he will demand, the price of the safety he offers, remain a dark, looming unknown. All you know is the absolute weight of his hand as it rests, for one brief, possessive second, on the edge of the marble platform. You are no longer waiting for your life to begin. You are waiting for him to tell you what your life is now allowed to be. Resistance is a memory. The claim has already begun. The negotiation chamber is not a place for compromise. It is a vault of cold stone and reinforced glass tucked deep within the Citadel's administrative wing, where the air feels scrubbed of all humanity. There are no soft chairs here, only the hard, polished surface of a slate desk and the low hum of high-level encryption servers. As you are led inside, the heavy steel door seals with a pressurized hiss, locking the rest of the world away. You are still veiled, the silk fabric now feeling like a shroud as you take your seat. Across from you, the commander does not sit. He looms. He stands by the narrow window, his back to the room, a massive silhouette against the gray sky of the Capitol. His absolute authority fills the space, pressing against the walls until the room feels too small to contain his intent. On the desk lies the document. It is not the standard partnership agreement you had envisioned during your years of climbing the corporate ladder. This is an instrument of total guardianship. As you reach out with a trembling hand to turn the first page, the scent of winter musk and old parchment rising from the paper makes your pulse erratic. The terms are laid out in a font that is as cold and precise as the man who drafted them. In exchange for the absolute physical and political protection of the commander's office, you are required to forfeit every vestige of your autonomy. The words "total surrender of agency" appear in the third paragraph, underlined in a dark, permanent ink. You read the details, and each one feels like a physical weight settling onto your shoulders. There will be no decisions made without his explicit, recorded approval. Your financial assets are to be merged into his private trust, managed by his staff. Your schedule, once a masterpiece of professional efficiency, is now a blank slate to be written upon by his command. Even your physical safety is categorized as a territorial asset. The contract stipulates your right to be monitored by a dedicated security detail 24 hours a day. You are being moved from the category of citizen to protected ward. The institutional guardianship is absolute, leaving no corner of your life unobserved by his shadow. The most chilling clause is saved for the final page, the public ownership marks. To accept his protection is to accept his brand. You will be required to wear his insignia at all times, a heavy platinum collar etched with the runes of his lineage. It is a legal declaration that you are no longer a private entity. You are his. You look up from the paper, your eyes searching for his through the veil, but he remains a statue of dark wool and dangerous potential. The silence in the chamber is heavy, broken only by the frantic rhythm of your own heart. You realize then that he isn't waiting for your input, he's waiting for your submission. The pen on the desk is heavy, made of cold obsidian. As you pick it up, your fingers shake, the nib hovering just above the signature line. This is the moment your professional world dissolves. You came here seeking a shield against the chaos of the border wars, a way to keep your status intact while the world burned. You signed for safety, therefore you now belong to him completely. The ink dries instantly, turning a deep, bruised black against the white paper. The surrender is no longer a psychological concept. It is a legal reality. You feel a strange, terrifying rush of relief as the finality of the act sinks in. The burden of choice has been stripped away, replaced by the absolute certainty of his rule. You have traded your voice for his silence, and as he finally turns to look at you, you know there is no going back. You have found your master. The heavy doors of the commander's private suite seal with a sound that signals the end of your public life. This is no longer the administrative coldness of the Citadel. This is his inner sanctum, a space carved from dark stone and draped in fabrics that seem to swallow the very light. The air here is different, pressurized and thick with the concentrated essence of winter musk and aged cedar. It is a sensory weight that settles over your skin, making every movement feel slow, deliberate, and watched. You stand in the center of the vast chamber, the silk of your veil damp against your cheeks from the heat of your own frantic breathing. There is no desk here, no contracts to sign, only the massive, low-profile bed that dominates the room like an altar to his authority. You hear him move behind you, his footsteps a rhythmic, heavy intent that vibrates through the soles of your feet. He does not speak, and the silence is more demanding than any verbal order could be. The atmospheric pressure shifts as he closes the distance, his physical scale blotting out the glow of the hearth fire. You are trapped between the stone wall and the sheer tectonic force of his presence. Your professional mind, the part of you that once managed the logistics of entire sectors, is screaming for a boundary that no longer exists. Your body, however, is already deep in the process of a cellular surrender. The instinctive trembling in your thighs has turned into a steady, rhythmic vibration that makes your knees feel like water. His hand rises, a dark shadow against the translucent white of your veil. He doesn't remove it yet. Instead, he brushes his knuckles against the fabric, tracing the line of your jaw with a clinical, predatory focus. The touch is cool, a stark contrast to the fevered heat rising from your neck. You gasp, the sound echoing in the stillness, a humiliating admission of how much his proximity affects your nervous system. He is mapping the prize he purchased at the auction, and the weight of his assessment is a physical burden. You realize, with a jolt of primal terror, that you are sightless, vulnerable, and legally bound to a man whose mercy is as legendary as his ruthlessness. "Stay still," he growls. The voice is a low-frequency rumble that bypasses your ears and strikes directly at your spine. You obey instantly, your muscles locking into a rigid, trembling compliance. This is the first test of the contract you signed. The relief of being told exactly what to do is a dark, addictive nectar that begins to soothe your panicked mind. He reaches for the fastening of your silk wrap, his fingers efficient and steady. As the heavy outer garment falls to the floor, leaving you in nothing but the thin, sleeveless shift of the auction block, the air hits your bare skin like a shock of ice. You feel exposed, reduced, and entirely his. He steps into your personal space, his chest nearly brushing your shoulders. The scent of him is an absolute command now, a chemical trigger that demands your total focus. He places his hands on your waist, his grip firm enough to bruise, anchoring you to the spot. The scale of him is overwhelming. You feel small, fragile, and perfectly contained within his shadow. The survival counter in your brain is flashing a warning, but the competitive tension of your old life has been replaced by a moral resignation. You signed for this. You traded the burden of your own will for the safety of his cage. As he leans down, his cool breath ghosting against the shell of your ear, the last of your resistance dissolves into the dark stone of the floor. The night has only just begun, but the woman you were is already gone. The morning does not bring the return of your autonomy. It brings the cold, structural reality of your new life. You wake in the massive bed, the silk sheets a cool reminder of the body that claimed you in the dark. The commander is gone, likely already deep in the strategic heart of the citadel, but his presence has been replaced by a system of absolute oversight. As you sit up, the heavy weight around your throat confirms the transition is complete. The platinum collar is cool against your skin, a permanent, high-status shackle that catches the morning light. It is etched with the runes of his house, a public declaration that your identity has been subsumed into his. You are no longer a private citizen. You are a territorial ward, and the institution of his ownership is now your only world. The door to the suite opens with a soft chime, and a team of blind servants enters, their movements rhythmic and silent. They do not look at you. They cannot. But they handle your body with a practiced, clinical gentleness that emphasizes your status as a precious asset. They bathe you in oils that carry the faint, lingering scent of his winter musk, ensuring his claim is refreshed on your skin every single hour. Your wardrobe has been replaced. The sharp, professional suits of your former life are gone, replaced by flowing silks in the charcoal and silver of the commander's house. Every garment is designed to be easily removed by him and impossible to ignore by others. You are being dressed as a queen, but you feel like a masterpiece in a high-security vault. As you move through the private wing, you realize the surveillance is not just a clause in a contract. It is an atmospheric condition. Guards in matte black armor stand at every intersection, their visors tracking your movement with a mechanical precision. They do not speak, but their posture is a constant reminder of the absolute protection you signed for. Your schedule for the day is delivered on a glass tablet, pre-authorized and non-negotiable. There are blocks of time for physical conditioning, for territorial briefings, and for the silent, high-protocol meals you will take in his absence. Every minute of your existence has been mapped by his staff, leaving no room for the burden of a single personal choice. You try to find a crack in the system, a moment to assert the independent spirit that once defined you. You attempt to redirect a servant or change the timing of a briefing, but the response is always the same: a polite, immovable wall of institutional policy. The commander has specified this rhythm for your safety, my lady. The words are a soft velvet glove over an iron fist. You are not being punished. You are being curated. The professional distance you once maintained as a consultant has been dissolved by a power that does not recognize boundaries. You are a high-value asset being optimized for his use, and the realization brings a terrifying, addictive sense of peace. The blind servants guide you to a balcony overlooking the Capitol, where the Citadel's flags snap in the cold wind. You look out over the city you once helped manage, but it feels like a distant memory, a chaotic world that no longer concerns you. Here, within the gray stone walls of his authority, the air is still and the rules are absolute. You touch the platinum runes on your collar, feeling the vibration of the city beneath your feet, and realize that your professional dissolution is complete. You are no longer a woman who does. You are a woman who is kept. Resistance is not just difficult, it is irrelevant. The institution of his ownership has consumed every boundary, leaving you with nothing but the quiet, heavy reward of total surrender. You are his. The grand ballroom of the Citadel is a cathedral of light and lethal ambition, a space where territorial alliances are forged in the shadows of high-protocol elegance. Tonight is the Winter Gala, the first time the commander will present his new acquisition to the High Court of the Sectors. You stand at the top of the marble staircase, the weight of your charcoal silk gown trailing behind you like a shadow. The heavy veil remains in place, a translucent barrier that separates your internal panic from the predatory gaze of the elite. Below, the sea of gala guests, alphas in dress uniforms and their faded mates in shimmering jewels, feels like a landscape of jagged glass. Every eye is fixed on the platinum collar around your throat, the runes glowing under the massive crystal chandeliers. You are his public declaration of dominance, the living evidence of a claim that no one dared to challenge until now. As you descend, the air pressure shifts, but it is not the commander's stabilizing weight. It is something sharper, more erratic. A figure steps from the crowd, breaking the flow of the evening. It is Julian, a rival alpha from the Northern Reach, a man who once sat across from you in boardrooms when you were still an independent consultant. He represents the life you left behind, the autonomy, the professional status, the world where you were a peer rather than a possession. The crowd goes silent, the music fading into a tense, atmospheric hum. Julian looks at you, his eyes filled with a mixture of pity and calculated aggression. He does not see the queen of the Citadel. He sees a high-value asset that has been stolen from the open market. I remember a woman who didn't need a leash to find her way home, Julian says, his voice carrying through the silent hall. The insult is precise, designed to cut through the institutional dignity of the commander's house. He steps closer, invading your guarded space, his presence a direct challenge to the guardianship you've accepted. Tell me, does the boardroom miss its finest logistician, or have you forgotten how to think for yourself under all that silver? The air in the room turns frigid. You feel the instinctive trembling return, but it is tempered by a strange, new loyalty. You could step back. You could maintain the professional distance of the veil and let the guards handle the transgression. You could remain a silent ward, protected but invisible. But the air changes. The heavy, rhythmic intent of the commander fills the hall before he even appears. He emerges from the shadows of the high dais, his scale making the grand architecture of the ballroom seem fragile. He does not shout. he does not need to. The low frequency vibration of his growl stills the heart of everyone present. He walks directly to you, his massive hand settling on the back of your neck, his fingers a firm, unyielding anchor against your skin. The heat of his palm is the only reality in a room full of ghosts. He looks at Julian with a cold, absolute certainty that makes the rival alpha's bravado dissolve into a visible sweat. She did not lose her mind, the commander says, his voice a dark rumble that vibrates through your collar. She found a master worthy of it. The statement is a hammer blow. In that moment, the choice is yours. You can remain hidden, a protected secret, or you can seal the bond in the eyes of the territory. With a steady hand, you reach up and unfasten the silk veil. The fabric falls away, exposing your face to the harsh light and the hungry crowd. You look directly at Julian, then turn your gaze to the commander, accepting his ownership completely. You lean into his touch, your body a silent testament to the relief of his authority. The surrender is total. You are no longer a consultant. You are his claimed mate, and the reward of your submission is the absolute, terrifying silence that follows. The heavy doors of the commander's inner sanctum seal with a pressurized hiss, cutting off the distant, frantic hum of the winter gala. The silence that follows is not empty. It is a dense, vibrating medium that carries the lingering scent of ozone and the raw, electric heat of the public confrontation. You stand in the center of the shadowed room, your charcoal silk gown a dark pool against the stone floor. Your face, exposed to the air for the first time in weeks, feels vulnerable and cold without the silk veil. You are still trembling, but it is no longer the frantic shaking of fear. It is the rhythmic, heavy aftershock of a total systemic collapse. You have stood before the elite of the sectors and discarded your last layer of professional distance. You have publicly claimed your status as his possession, and the weight of that truth is now the only thing keeping you upright. The commander does not move to the desk or the window. He stands directly behind you, his massive shadow looming over your shoulders until the room's dim light is swallowed by his presence. You can feel the heat radiating from his chest, a low-frequency pulse that matches the thrum of the platinum collar around your throat. He doesn't speak, but his breathing is a rhythmic, predatory sound that fills your senses. The air pressure in the small space shifts as he reaches out, his large hands settling on your bare shoulders. His palms are cool, a stark contrast to the fevered flush of your skin, and the contact sends a wave of primal recognition through your nerves. You lean back into him, your spine pressing against the hard planes of his chest, and let out a breath you feel you've been holding since the auction floor. You gave them what they wanted, he growls, his voice a low vibration against the shell of your ear. You gave them the sight of what I own. His fingers trace the line of the collar, his touch possessive and heavy with intent. But why did you do it? You could have stayed behind the silk. You could have kept that one piece of yourself hidden from their judgment. He turns you slowly, his grip firm and unyielding, until you are forced to look up into the storm-gray depths of his eyes. There is no professional mask here, no institutional distance. There is only the alpha, who saw through your competence to the vacancy beneath. He recognized your need for surrender long before you were willing to admit it to yourself. The realization hits you with the force of a landslide. The protection he provided was never just about the guards at the door or the legal shield of his name. It was the structure. It was the absolute removal of the burden of choice. You spent your life mapping the logistics of others, making the hard decisions that kept sectors running, while your own spirit withered under the weight of perpetual agency. He saw the exhaustion in your soul and offered you a cage made of silver and safety. You mourn the woman you used to be, the independent consultant with a name and a future, even as you revel in the crushing relief of her dissolution. The cost is your public identity, your professional autonomy, and every boundary you ever built. The price is your very self. In exchange, you have the absolute certainty of his shadow. You have a world where the only requirement is your continued submission to his frequency. As he cups your face, his thumb brushing over your lower lip with a heavy, rhythmic intent, the last of your resistance dissolves into the cool shadows of the room. You are no longer a peer in a world of rivals. You are the cherished prize of a master who allows no threat to reach you. The reckoning is over. You have weighed your freedom against his authority and found it wanting. You are his property, and the peace of that possession is the only reward you require. Surrender is complete. The transition from ward to property is not a single event. It is a deepening of the atmospheric pressure that surrounds you. In the weeks following the Winter Gala, the equilibrium of your new life hardens into stone. The Citadel no longer feels like a fortress you are visiting. It is the only geography that exists. Your former life, the datasets, the logistics, the frantic autonomy of the sectors, has faded into a pale, flickering ghost. Here, in the heart of the commander's territory, the rules are absolute, and the silence is heavy with the reward of your compliance. You have found the new baseline of your existence, a rhythmic pulse of high-protocol service and primal belonging that leaves no room for the haunting echoes of a personal will. You are the center of his world, but you are a center that is entirely contained by his shadow. The final seal of this new reality is not found in a contract or a public gala. It happens in the deep, velvet quiet of his private study, a room where the scent of winter musk is so thick it feels like a physical embrace. The commander stands before you, his massive frame blocking out the light of the hearth. He has removed the platinum collar for a brief moment, the cool air hitting the sensitive skin of your neck. You feel the vulnerability of the exposure, the sudden, sharp awareness of your own pulse. He does not speak, but his intent is a low-frequency vibration that makes your knees weaken. He is about to etch his claim into your very biology, a permanent mark that the territory will recognize as an unbreakable bond. He pulls you flush against him, his hands anchoring your hips with a firm, unyielding pressure. You lean your head back, exposing the line of your throat, an instinctive gesture of trust and total surrender. The heat of his breath is a warning before the sharp, sudden sting of his teeth. The claiming bite is a shock of reality, a moment where the institutional and the primal collide. You gasp, your fingers digging into the hard muscles of his forearms, but you do not pull away. You lean into the pain, welcoming the sensation of his mark being set in your skin. It is the final dissolution of your independence. As the bond snaps into place, a rush of dark, shimmering peace floods your system. You are no longer an individual. You are a part of him, a vital asset under his absolute guardianship. The territory now recognizes you as his completely. There is no longer any ambiguity in the way the guards salute or the way the council members lower their eyes when you pass. You are the commander's queen, a position defined not by your power, but by the absolute scale of his possession. You have traded the chaotic freedom of the boardroom for the structured worship of his authority. Every decision that once burdened you is now his to carry. Every threat that once loomed over your career is now met by his lethal protection. You move through the Citadel with a quiet, heavy dignity, the mark on your neck a constant reminder of the price you paid and the safety you gained. You are his property, his possession, and his pride. The macro loop of your journey has closed. The protection you sought and the mastery you received have become the same singular truth. You stand on the high balcony, his massive hand resting on your shoulder, the discarded silk veil caught by the wind and carried into the gray sky below. The mark on your throat is a permanent testament to the claim that saved you from yourself. Was the price of your autonomy too high? Or was this total surrender the only true freedom you ever found? Submit to the next chapter by following the scent. Subscribe for the continuation.